Well, the title was just something fancy that I came up with. Something happened to the font, but let's go. So this presentation is about a EU-funded project called Life IP Rich Waters. And I think it can be seen as an example of an initiative to boost the implementation of a river basin management plan. So I will tell you a bit about the project itself and the results that we have seen so far, but my main focus will be on what we bring to the Swedish water administration and how this project illustrates what the implementation of the Water Framework Directive can look like at the local level. Yeah, something definitely happened. The LIFE program is, as you may know, the EU's funding mechanism for the environment, and is this year celebrating its 30th anniversary. When we started, IP, or integrated projects, was a new project form, and it differs from traditional LIFE projects in scope and size. So the objective is to cover a major plan or directive. So our focus is the Water Framework Directive. And each country only gets one integrated project per policy area. We have a total funding of 30 million euros, of which 10 is EU funding, 5 million from the Swedish Agency for Marine and Water Management, and 15 million from the participating partners. So why an integrated LIFE project focusing on water in Sweden? Well, as you've heard today, many water bodies in Sweden have severe problems due to eutrophication, physical changes, and environmental pollution. And the implementation of the Water Framework Directive is going too slowly. So when the project was designed, a thorough gaps analysis was made to see where the problem areas were. So there was insufficient knowledge and data to identify the most cost-effective measures and to set priorities for measures. There was a lack of efforts to develop new technology and innovative measures. There was a lack of best practice working methods for strategic water planning, a need for more and better examples of measures and pilot projects, and a lack of ecosystems approach and insufficient consideration of climate issues. So now this project has been running for 5 years, and we are now in the process of procuring a new analysis, partly of our contribution to the implementation of the RBMP, but also to see if these gaps are still relevant, with the aim of being able to refocus the project to put the emphasis where it's most needed. Yeah, sorry. So the project aims at affecting most parts of the water administration. We have 20 or so sub-projects, or actions as they are called in EU terminology. And they are divided into 5 thematic areas: water planning, eutrophication from external sources, eutrophication from internal loading, connectivity, and environmental pollutants. And in each of these thematic areas, there are projects that focus on policy, on better cooperation and methodology development, but also projects that do implement concrete measures in the field. This is the Northern Baltic Sea River Basin District, which is our focus. It's one of 5 river basin districts in Sweden, and covers the waters around Lake Mälaren and the north of the Baltic Sea. This is the smallest river basin district, but it covers the most populated area, including the capital, Stockholm. And this map shows our sub-projects, and as you can see, the project stretches throughout the whole district. Diversity in issues and geographical spread were 2 important factors in the design of the project, and the third factor was the mix of implementing partners. So this graphical circus of logotypes is our big partnership. We have national and regional authorities, municipalities, companies, researchers, and water conservation associations. So in total, Rich Waters involves 35 beneficiaries representing the most important stakeholders in the implementation of the River Basin Management Plan. We also have national agencies such as the Swedish Agency for Marine and Water Management and the Swedish Board of Agriculture to ensure a national uptake and dissemination of results. Earlier this year, we completed our second interim report to the EU, marking 2/3 of the project period. And I will briefly summarize the results so far, but there are a lot of results, so you can put the sign up. So during these 5 years, we have is this readable at all? Yes. During these 5 years, we have implemented a number of physical measures. There are measures against nutrient leakage from horsekeeping, multifunctional water parks, different lake treatments, mussel farming. We have constructed fauna passages, 3, soon 4. And we have tested remediation of contaminated areas during salix plantation, etc. And these are the visible results, the results that you can actually visit and touch. But I wanted to focus more on the results that are under the surface. But just to ensure you, there are direct environmental effects of this expensive project. We have seen a reduction of phosphorus load through some of our measures. We have restored connectivity, and in the fauna passages today, we see aspus, eel, and other endangered species that have better conditions for survival. So this is really good news. However, this is very small contributions seen to the amplitude of the problem. So the real impact will be on how these concrete measures can be used as inspiration and good examples for others. And they can also illustrate how the implementation of the Water Framework Directive actually looks like at the local level. And I often say that communication is the most important aspect of this project, and it's not just because it's my job, but what we need to do is to carefully document these actions, document all the lessons learned, the processes, the mistakes that we make, and the results, so that they can be used by others and make the implementation of water measures more effective. So, conclusion here is that environmental effects are important, but what we are hoping for are the ripple effects throughout the water administration. The water administration, as I have experienced today, is not always easy to grasp and understand. We try to understand our contribution to reaching good water status through how many administrative measures in the program of measures that we actually contribute to. And from what we have seen so far, we contribute to 17 out of 55 from policy level to measures on the ground. Just to take one example, in the thematic area of internal loading, we work on the whole chain from the policy level, where we develop national guidelines, to methodology development on how to actually be able to assess internal loading of a lake, to also concrete examples of measures. Some of our projects are developing decision-making tools, for example, tools to optimize placement of wetlands or compilation of costs to ensure free migration passages for fish. And all these tools can be used for better decision-making when it comes to planning and prioritization of measures at the local, municipal, and regional levels. And the objective here, or the purpose, is that if we have better decisions, then we have also more cost-effective implementation. So if the decision-making tools are about what to do, the methodology development in the project is about how to do it. To give one example, we saw that many municipalities had problems knowing where to start in their municipal planning, water planning. So we have developed a handbook and a whole project on supporting municipalities in strategic water planning. And we also have developed other methods, but I won't have the time to go through all of them. Another part of the project is to testing technology and finding new solutions. For example, using the use of sensors, finding more areas for cost-effective use of sensor techniques. We're also testing low-flow dredging to combat internal loading and mussel farming as well for the same purpose. And these are also developing circular systems of reuse of nutrients. An important part of the project is to mobilize more resources to water administration, and it's also been a theme here that we need more money. This is actually a requirement from the EU for integrated life projects. So we have given a lot of courses and seminars and supported municipalities and local organizations in finding money for measures. And we are also monitoring calls and doing some matchmaking between donors and beneficiaries. And we're actually now also thinking about the future of our jobs and how to find a new project for us. This is one of my favorite results, the creation of networks. I think that just being part of a large project like this has created platforms and interfaces for exchanges and cooperation, and I think that this is where we will see the most important results in the long term. But in our report to the EU, the evaluation showed that there is more consensus today. There are new dialogues and cooperation at different levels between authorities, but also between sectors and administrations. One smaller part of the project, but that we're putting more emphasis on now, is climate adaptation. We have several examples of concrete measures where climate aspects have been integrated into the project design and where this multifunctionality is becoming more important. But we also have some studies and methodology development in this area. And so, all in all, we have gathered a lot of knowledge and experiences, and this is why I'm here today, to share this with you. We have participated in a lot of unorganized conferences and meetings, a lot of seminars and workshops on thematic issues, and actually the pandemic provided new opportunities for us to reach broader target groups. Since the online meetings made it possible to involve larger groups. And we also organized a two-day conference with the other integrated projects in Europe. Because what we have seen is that if you implement measures that work, that are visible and function as inspiring examples, then others want to follow, others want to know how you did it and what the results were. And these are the ripple effects that we were hoping for and that we now see work. And then, since this is my job, I wanted to say something about visibility in public debate. And I think that the objective of communication and public awareness raising when it comes to water issues is to increase acceptance for measures. Several of you have mentioned how important it is to get politicians on board. And that's what we want to do in this area where we work, to show the value of water measures, to show the value that water measures give to society. Because if we want the Water Framework Directive to be implemented, it needs to be a priority. Politicians and taxpayers need to feel that it's worth the money they spend. And even if our main target groups are people like you, policymakers and practitioners, we also put some emphasis on reaching the general public or the people that are directly affected by measures. And this is why the showcase measures are so important, because they make the Water Framework Directive become alive at the local level. When you can actually see fish migrating through a fauna passage in your central city, that it does something to public acceptance of spending money on this. I'm gonna wrap up on results, but this is maybe my favorite area because I'm not a biologist. The EU is also very interested in other effects of the project beyond the expected results on capacity and environment. And last year we had a consultant assess the social and economic impact of 8 of our sub-projects. And they saw that the measures, they have an effect on employment, and they also provide business opportunities when developing new techniques. There's marketing opportunities for companies involved, but also for municipalities who can market themselves as environmental friendly. It also puts pressure on politicians. Savings and economic resilience is mainly linked to climate adaptation aspects. And well-being and creational values. Well, on this picture, this area used to be just a field, which nobody could really benefit from. Now it's a multifunctional water park, which purifies stormwater from city areas, but it's also a new area where the younger generation can discover insects in the water, and where you can walk your dog if you live nearby. And there's also, of course, health aspects of less environmental pollution in lakes. They even saw some equality and integration positive effects by making these waters accessible and involving unemployed persons in the construction work, etc. So these, I think, are really good arguments for water measures, all these added values that you get when you implement water measures. So I've been talking about all the results and the positive effects that we have measured and observed in our evaluations, but I have not mentioned the really, really heavy EU administration, the complex project design. One of our funding fathers is sitting there. And the pressure that this project had put on already strained administration, because we're using staff that already have a full-time job. And if you ask some of our partner organizations, I think they would say that it's been a tough ride, but I also think that they would agree, they would all agree with me that it's been a unique opportunity to contribute to injecting energy into the implementation of the Water Framework Directive. And we can see that, especially in the participating municipalities, that water issues have become a new priority, and the staff involved in the project, many of them have already moved on to more important strategic positions. So all in all, I would say that it's worth it, and the real value, I think we will see more in the long term. And if you want to know more about the project, we have a website with also a lot of publications and information about everything I've talked about today.